In the unit fungi, we are studying different types and their life history. So far we have studied about the life history of Rhizopus, Penicillium and Puccinia. So they belong to class Phycomycetes, Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes. So similarly in Basidiomycetes, one more example we will be studying, that is Agaricus campestris, which is also called as Saliota campestris. So Agaricus is a example of Basidiomycetes. Now Agaricus and similar type of examples related to Agaricus, they are called as mushrooms. So mushroom is a common word which is referred to one group of fungi in Basidiomycetes. Now Agaricus campestris is one of a mushroom. Now this mushroom, Agaricus campestris, it is a saprophytic fungus. That means it grows on decaying matter. It particularly grows on humus, and it is very common where there is horse dung, the soil which contains horse dung, and even in damp rotten logs of wood. So when the wooden logs are somewhat moist, so they get rotten. So in such type of wooden logs we find Agaricus, and also we find on the trunks of trees, that is on the bark of the trees, and also in the meadows, that means on grasslands which are rich in decaying organic matter, we can observe, or where there in that such areas mushrooms are commonly seen. So this Agaricus is one such saprophytic fungus which is found in such damp decaying organic matter. So some mushrooms, when we come to the common including Agaricus, certain mushrooms are edible. So Agaricus campestris is edible, but there are certain mushrooms related to Agaricus genus. They are poisonous, they are toxic in nature, but they are not poisonous, but however there are certain deadly poisonous also. So they cause toxicity in the digestive system and result in severe effects. Sometimes it leads to death. So that means we can say that certain mushrooms are deadly poisonous and certain are edible. So due to the presence of rich proteins and other ingredients, nutrients, they are edible, but due to the presence of some toxic substances, so certain are deadly poisonous, and that is why mushrooms, whenever they are selected for eating, they should be properly observed and then used for consumption. Then coming to the structure, to the life history of Agaricus campestris. So Agaricus campestris is made up of hyphae, septate hyphae. So in the general characteristics we have already mentioned, class Phycomycetes like Rhizopus, it is aseptate, cenocytic hyphae. But Ascomycetes, Basidiomycetes, Deuteromycetes, they are all septate hyphae. The septate hyphae, though they are septate, the cross wall, the partition contains a central pore through which there is a communication between the adjacent cells. So the cells may be uninucleate, binucleate, or even more, because movement of the nucleus or even the division of the existing nucleus in that cell. So Agaricus campestris consists of hyphae, that is septate hyphae, and this septate hyphae is usually binucleate, and it is somewhat transparent in nature or somewhat glassy in nature. So this hyphae, which is septate, it contains certain food materials reserve food like oil globules are present, and there are also certain vacuoles, and there is a clear cytoplasm, means not so dense protoplasm is present in the cell. So actually these cells, now these cells which are made up of septate hyphae, suppose this is the hyphae, so these are the septa which are present. Now initially the cells are uninucleate actually. So in the hyphae of Agaricus, initially when they are originating, when they are born, newly formed, so they are uninucleate, and this uninucleate will become binucleate due to the adjacent hyphae of the fusion of the adjacent hyphae. Now the binucleate is not due to the division of the nucleus. So when the initially when it is uninucleate, it becomes binucleate not by the division of the nucleus, but actually two hyphae, they fuse each other. Suppose these are the two hyphae. So two hyphae of plus and minus strains. So these two opposite strains, as we have seen such kind of strains in the previous fungi like Puccinia and also in Penicillium, even in Rhizopus. So there the plus and minus hyphae, they fuse each other, and the cells will become binucleate like this. So this is how the binucleate condition is transformed. So the nucleus uninucleate cells of plus strain and uninucleate cells of the minus strain, they fuse each other. They unite to form a single cell, but the nuclei will not fuse. They remain separately, and that is why we can observe this dikaryotic condition in the matured or in the well-developed hyphae. Now these well-developed hyphae which are present, so in Agaricus we can come across two types of hyphae. The hyphae which is present inside the substratum, and the hyphae which is present on the upper part of the substratum, in the aerial part. So this is called as the vegetative mycelium. This is the vegetative mycelium, and this is called as a fruiting body, or it is also called as fructification. So this is fruiting body or fructification. So this body of a Agaricus can be divided into two parts, the fructification and the vegetative mycelium. So the vegetative mycelium is formed only by the fusion of the plus and minus strains. So initially the plus strain, when it is present, it fuses only with the minus strain and forms the vegetative mycelium, and then the vegetative mycelium gives rise to the fructification or the fruiting body. So this fruiting body is actually the reproductive part of that Agaricus fungus. Now this vegetative mycelium, sometimes they which is present in the substratum after becoming dikaryotic. So certain hyphae, they become interwoven within themselves, means they coil among themselves into rope-like strands. So these rope-like strands which are formed inside, so that is called as rhizomorph. So rhizomorph, it is a structure which is formed by the mycelium or the hyphae which is present in the vegetative mycelium. So this hyphae which becomes interwoven and becomes rope-like, thick rope-like structure that forms the rhizomorph. So these rhizomorphs which are present, and usually the complete mycelium, vegetative mycelium, including the rhizomorphs in that substratum that is present under the soil, not except the fructification, other than the fruiting body. So this thick mass of mycelium which is somewhat tangled with each other, and which is somewhat woolly in nature. So that woolly mass of mycelium is known as the what is called as spawns. So this spawn will then give rise to the fructification. So initially, so when we repeat it again, initially it is uninucleate. So the uninucleate becomes a dikaryotic or binucleate by the fusion of the plus and minus strands. So this is called as vegetative mycelium. So the complete mass of vegetative mycelium which is formed, it goes on dividing and developing and form a complete thick structure, a tangled mass of hyphae, or that is called as the spawn. So in this spawn we come across again interwoven rope-like, thick rope-like strands or rope-like structures called as rhizomorphs. So that is just the morphology of the agaricus, or about the thallus of the agaricus, that is the body of the agaricus. Now if you come to the fructification, what is about this fructification? Now this fructification, initially it is a round body like structure. The hyphae of the spawn or a vegetative mycelium, it projects out vertically, it grows out vertically and forms a ball like structure. So this ball like structure which is seen above, it is called as the button stage. So this button stage of the fructification goes on developing, and this button stage of the fructification develops into a umbrella like structure. So that is the fruiting body. So this is the fructification. So a complete developed fruiting body from the button stage is an umbrella shaped structure where the spore formation takes place. Now this structure is actually called as basidiocarp. So the basidiocarp or the fruiting body or fructification is an umbrella shaped structure, and this cylindrical stalk is called as the stipe, and this dome shaped structure is called as the pileus, or sometimes it is called as the cap. So this cap or pileus is the dome shaped structure, the stalk is called as the stipe, and actually the pileus is attached to the stipe when it is in the button stage like this. So whenever this pileus opens, it is just like umbrella. When we close the umbrella, it touches with that rod, isn't it? Similarly here, when the pileus is not dome shaped, it is enclosing the stipe. It is attached to the stipe, and with the help of a membrane which is called as velum. So this membrane is called as velum. And when the pileus gets separated from the stipe, so that pileus, it removes off, it separates off from the stipe, and there on the stipe there is some part of the membrane left. So there are some remnants of the membrane, that is remnants of the velum left on the stipe. So this remnant is actually called as annulus. So this annulus is a ring like structure or a membranous structure that we can see on the stipe. So that is the structure of the fruiting body. Then coming to the pileus here. Now inside the pileus, that means on the concave side of the pileus. So the convex means it is the upper part which is dome shaped. Now inside the pileus we can see some flattened structures. So these flattened structures or somewhat plate-like structures we can say. So these plate-like structures which are arranged radially around the stipe, they are present in this structure. So these structures which are present radially around the pilus, they are called as gills. So the gills are plate-like, they are radially arranged, which are numerous in number inside the cavity of the pilus or inside the pilus. They are called as the gills. Now the gills, structure of a gill is now important. So which is actually involved in the reproduction. So the gills are the reproductive parts in the fruiting body or in the fructification. So when we study the structure of a single gill, the central part of the gill is made up of elongated hyphae, of course septate hyphae, binucleate hyphae. So this structure is called as trama. So from this hyphae, that is the central region, trama, so there are structures which are cells which are round circular shaped cells. So these are the hyphae which are originating like this. So these form a layer of cells which are originating from the trama. So this layer of cells is called as subhymenium. So the subhymenium is a layer of circular shaped cells. So that central portion of the gill is the trama, which is also made up of hyphae, elongated slender hyphae, and sometimes it is also called as a pseudoparenchyma because they appear as a group of cells. So when all these hyphae are together, means they form a compact mass, they appear like a group of parenchyma cells as we see in plants. So that is why it is called as pseudoparenchyma region. Now this hyphae from the trama, it gives rise to a structure called as the subhymenium. So the subhymenium consists of small round shaped cells. A layer of the small round shaped cells are formed on the outer side of each gill, and that layer forms the subhymenium. And from this subhymenium, the hymenium layer originates. So this hymenium layer consists of elongated cells like this. So this is the hymenium layer which originates from the subhymenium. The hymenium layer consists of, this is the hymenium layer, consists of elongated cells. Now some are very large in the hymenium. So they are somewhat palisade-like or clavette shaped we can say. So these hymenium cells, there are some large cells and there are some small cells. So these large cells, they are called as basidium, single basidium, plural basidia. And these small cells which are present, they are called as the paraphysis. So in other words, we can say the hymenium consists of basidia and paraphysis. Basidia are large cells, they are club shaped cells. They are broad at the free end, narrow at the basal part, means narrow towards the subhymenium. So where they originate from the subhymenium, they are narrow shaped and they become broader at the free end. So that is these large cells, they are called as the basidia or the basidium. And then the smaller cells which are also similar to basidia but not as large as basidia, they are called as the paraphysis. So it is actually the basidia which are fertile and the paraphysis which are unfertile. So the paraphysis do not involve in reproduction, but the basidium or basidia, they involve in the reproduction. Now suppose each basidium, when we take, suppose this is one basidium which is originating from the subhymenium, it consists of the nuclei, dikaryotic. So already we have mentioned the vegetative mycelium is a dikaryotic. Similarly, the fructification or the fruiting body which originates, it is also dikaryotic, it is also binucleate. Followed. Then the basidium, how it develops further. The nucleus of each basidium divides to form 4 nuclei. By this time, there are some small projections which originate at the anterior part of the basidium, like this. Now each nucleus will enter into that projection, and each nucleus, when it enters, it forms a spore at one end. That is how the spores are formed. So here the nuclei which were present inside, they now enter into these swollen structures, and these are what are called as basidiospores. So the basidiospores which are formed, so 2 are of plus type and 2 are of minus type. They are originating on a small stalk-like structure which is called as sterigmata. So actually the sterigmata are small projections which we can see from the tip of the basidium. They originate. Now initially actually the basidium is binucleate as the normal cell. So these nuclei will divide, and this nuclei will divide to form 4 daughter nuclei. So the young basidium, which is first binucleate, so the 2 haploid nuclei actually fuse, they do not divide, they actually fuse there to form a single nucleus, that is called as the zygote nucleus. So these 2 will fuse. Actually this is 1 plus and this is 1 minus, isn't it? So because they are formed by the union of the plus and minus strain, so these 2 nuclei will fuse and form the zygote nucleus. So this zygote nucleus will divide by meiosis and form 4 nuclei. Then the 4 nuclei will enter into the sterigmata and then form 4 basidiospores. So like that, the sterigmata, which is a short stalk-like structure. So these sterigmata are small projections. So these small projections which are known as sterigmata, the nuclei will enter into each sterigmata, and the terminal end of each sterigmata will become swollen and forms the basidiospore. And each basidiospore contains a single nucleus. So the basidiospores, they are discharged, means they get separated. So they actually, when they are separated, they fall down. So suppose when the mushroom is growing there, so from this pileus region, from the lower side, the spores, they separate and they are carried by wind or this water. So when the spores which are discharged, when they fall or when they fall on a suitable substratum, and when there are favorable conditions, that means atmospheric, so they give rise to the mycelium. Suppose this is the basidiospore. So this gives rise to the monokaryotic mycelium. That means not a dikaryotic. So mycelium which is uninucleate. Now this uninucleate mycelium. So already I said there are 2 spores. Suppose this is a plus and this is a minus spore here. So such kind of spores, when they fall on the substratum. So when a plus spore, basidiospore, and when a minus basidiospores are almost close to each other, so the hyphae which is produced by the plus and minus basidiospore, so they form the respective mycelium or the hyphae. So and this hyphae which is formed from the basidiospore, so they get fused. So in other words, they get anastomose, we call it as. So anastomose means they unite each other. So just the cells will unite, not the nuclei. So this anastomosing means union of the only the outer part of the cell, not the nuclei, and even the organelles also remain free. So this anastomosing of the hyphae of the plus and minus strains, so it results into the dikaryotic hyphae or the dikaryotic mycelium. And this dikaryotic hyphae further forms the spawn vegetative mycelium and gives rise to the rhizomorph, and further again the rhizomorphs or the spawn gives rise to the fructification. So this is how the reproduction takes place by the help of basidiospores. So the basidiospores are present in large numbers, and actually the gills are also present in large number. So these large number of gills, so each gill produces thousands of basidiospores, which include the plus and of minus strains, and they are released from the gills which are present in the pileus. So when they are released from the pileus region or the gills region, they are carried easily by wind and water, and when they fall on a suitable substratum means on a decaying matter, because agaricus is a saprophytic fungus. So when it falls on a decaying matter or on a damp wooden log, so there it will germinate. So only the further development takes place when the anastomosing of the plus and minus hyphae takes place and forms a dikaryotic. So only dikaryotic mycelium can give rise to fruiting body. It produces the button stage, and then it gives rise to the basidiocarp, which we can say, or the fructification, which contains the stipe and the pileus. So the pileus contains the gills, and the gills are the structures of reproduction by the help of the basidiospores. So the structure of the gill is important in this agaricus. So just to in brief, so the gill contains a central mass of hyphae which is compactly arranged. Trama gives rise to the subhymenium single layer of round shaped cells, and subhymenium gives rise to the hymenium consisting of basidium and paraphysis. So the basidium gives rise to the basidiospores, and then the monokaryotic mycelium, and further the life cycle continues from monokaryotic to the dikaryotic mycelium.